Hey everyone, and welcome to your Linux, open source and privacy news for the first half of October 2021. This time we have the Pine 64 announcing the PinePhone Pro, Firefox putting ads in the suggestions bar, and a study confirming that Android gathers a lot of data on their users, on top of major Ubuntu and KDE releases. Let's dive in right after this message from our sponsor. So Linode is a fantastic way to get your own Linux server up and running. It was rated the easiest cloud provider to use on G2, and it has been voted top infrastructure as a service provider by G2 and TrustRadius. Linode offers a ton of one-click deployable servers, like Owncast for example, which lets you run your own Twitch-like streaming service complete with video broadcast and chat, or Apache Guacamole. What's that, you ask? Well, Guacamole is a fantastic way to get your own Linux desktop in the cloud that you can access from anywhere you want. And basically you can host that on Linode and get to any other computer and get access to that Linux desktop. It's pretty amazing. If you're more into gaming, you can also deploy your own Valheim or Minecraft server in one click. Linode has a ton of these one-click deployable apps. I use Linode to run my own Nextcloud server, which I use to run this whole channel, so I can't recommend them enough, especially since you can now create your account easily using Google or GitHub. And in the future, if you don't have a credit card, you'll be able to sign up using Google Pay as well, so that's one less barrier to get started. So if you want to get a free $100 credit to start your own Linux server, well, head over to the link in the description below and click it. So let's begin with the Linux news. Christian Schaller, the director for the desktop at Red Hat, posted another article about PipeWire and the Linux video capture stack. If you don't know about PipeWire, it's basically the system that allows secure video recording on Wayland, but also greatly improves the audio handling situation on Linux. The article focuses on how PipeWire will handle webcams as an additional layer over the existing Video for Linux kernel API and Leap Camera, which is basically the Mesa of webcams. As always, it's an interesting article as it clearly explains the benefits of revamping various aspects of the stack as the Wayland transition continues, to make using Linux and developing for it a much simpler experience. GNOME 42 will bring the dark style preference to all users without the need for GNOME Tweaks. The goal is to let users tell their system that they want to use a dark theme and let the applications decide whether they support that or not, much like how it works on iOS, Android, or generally any desktop OS. As Elementary OS has already shipped support for this, the implementation in GNOME will be interoperable, so apps developed for Elementary will respect GNOME's dark mode preference and vice versa. This implementation will also be accessible to Flatpak applications, so we should see less blinding white apps on our dark desktops. We'll have to see if this setting will be compatible with KDE Plasma as well. Ubuntu 21.10 was released, bringing with it GNOME 40 and its horizontal workspaces. The new release also got rid of the mixed dark and light theme, but improved the dock's functionality, with the ability to interact with removable devices or the trash, and separating running apps from pinned apps with a divider. Most apps also got updated either to their GNOME 40 version or to the GNOME 41 release, and the kernel was bumped to 5.13. The old installer is still the default though, as the new one isn't ready yet. I have a video detailing all the changes and a quick tour of the various flavors, so click on the card up top if you want to know more. KDE Plasma 5.23 was released, also dubbed Plasma 25th Anniversary Edition. It brings a revamped Breeze theme which looks much better than the previous one, in my opinion, as well as accent colors, which will let you change the main color for your theme without messing around with the full color settings, which could be very confusing. Search in the settings is also much improved with a lot more keywords, and, as always, Wayland support has been taken up a notch with support for copy-paste between Wayland and ex-Wayland applications. I have a video about KDE 5.23 as well, check it out in the card up top. Let's move on to some hardware news. Tuxedo announced their new InfinityBook Pro 14. This laptop comes with an Intel Core i7-11370H with Xe graphics and an optional RTX 3050 Ti for more intensive workloads. It also brings back the 3K 16:10 aspect ratio display that the previous InfinityBook used, which is excellent news. It's a pretty thin laptop at 1.5 cm for 1 kg, and the chassis is made out of magnesium alloy. You will also find a glass touchpad and a nice looking chiclet keyboard, as well as an improved cooling system with 2 fans and 2 heat pipes. Battery life is rated for 12 hours at max with 8 hours for office work. It also has Thunderbolt 4, as well as an HDMI port and an SD card slot, so it should be a pretty versatile device. I should receive a review unit in the near future, so I will be able to give you a full review soon. Valve published a video opening up the Steam Deck and showing how it's laid out inside. Now, they repeat over and over again that you shouldn't do it yourself and that it will void your warranty. And watching the video, you can understand why. It seems like a delicate device that beginner tinkerers might have a hard time messing with without breaking it. The device seems super packed inside and uses custom parts for the thumbsticks, so repairing or improving your own Steam Deck might not be a super easy operation. We'll have to wait for the various teardowns when these things arrive in the hands of various reviewers to see how they hold up. Now, the Pine64 announced the PinePhone PRO, the more powerful successor to the PinePhone. It brings a 6-core system on a chip with 4GB of RAM and much improved cameras, at 13 megapixels in the back and 5 megapixels in the front. It will also use the same form factor and screen size as the original PinePhone, so accessories will be mostly compatible, excluding the covers. The performance of the device is rated at 20% slower than a PineBook Pro, so it should still be plenty for running our Linux mobile desktop environments, and maybe use the PinePhone Pro as a desktop replacement on the go. I also have a video about this, you can check it out in the card up top. Now, moving on to the application news, Firefox 93 was released, supporting the AVIF image format. This one should offer good space savings compared to JPEG, while retaining a better image quality. The PDF viewer supports filling out more types of form, including XFA-based forms, and downloads that rely on insecure connections will be blocked to prevent malicious downloads from invading your system. Firefox will also now work correctly with the Orca screen reader. Last but not least in terms of changes, Firefox introduces Firefox Suggest, a fancy name to describe ads in the suggestion bar. These aren't rolled out to everyone and are turned on by default, although you will be able to disable them in the settings. The OnlyOffice desktop editors have been updated to version 6.4. The applications now support conditional formatting in spreadsheets, a very useful feature. Comments in documents can now be resolved or deleted in bulk, which should save plenty of time. Presentations now support version history, and spreadsheets can now import TXT or CSV files. I personally moved to OnlyOffice exclusively as my Office suite, and I run my own OnlyOffice document server, which is linked with my Nextcloud. And I must say it's an excellent Office suite that you should check out if you haven't already. Slimbook updated their Slimbook battery app. This thing used to be pretty Spartan looking and not very user-friendly, and the new version definitely looks better, although it does remind me of a graphics card settings panel. It lets you tweak 3 different power profiles, add a notification tray icon to switch to each one of these, and it interfaces with the Slimbook AMD controller app to let power profiles also change your AMD CPU frequency for maximum efficiency. These apps can work on non-Slimbook laptops as well. I installed it on my Slimbook Pro X14, and combining the AMD controller with this one brought my battery life up from 6 to 8 hours in power-saving mode, so I would say it was worth it. Now on to the gaming news. The Linux market share is still progressing, according to the Steam survey, as it's been 3 months that it hovers over 1%. It might seem like a very small number, and it is, but it's still encouraging, and will probably go up quite a bit after the Steam Deck is released. The most popular distros for Linux gamers seem to be Ubuntu in the lead with a combined market share of around 22%, Manjaro with 13%, Arch at 11%, and then PopOS at 7.5% and Mint on 6%. Other distros combined still represent 40% of the distributions used, so we are still a very fragmented user base. While the number might seem useless, the higher it is, the more likely game developers will focus on a Linux port, or at least check for Proton compatibility and/or enable anti-cheat support. DLSS already worked on DirectX 12 titles through Proton, but Proton Experimental is bringing that support to DirectX 11 titles as well. DLSS is NVIDIA's super sampling technology that allows users to upscale lower-res assets to use them at a higher resolution, thus improving performance. While this feature is disabled by default, it's possible to enable it with adding one line as a startup option for each game you want it on. With AMD's Fidelity FX being already available for any title, plus DLSS, we should soon have no trouble gaming on 4K monitors, even on relatively weaker GPUs. Gaming on Linux, one of my primary sources for these Linux gaming news, has compiled a list of the top 100 Steam games and how many work on Linux already. A game that works is defined as a game that runs using Proton or Proton GE or has a native port, as listed on ProtonDB. As of now, 75% of the top 100 games on Steam already work, and we can only expect that compatibility number to go up once developers take the time, or are, let's say, motivated, into enabling Proton support for easy anti-cheat and BattlEye. Wine 6.19 was released. This new version brings more compatibility with HID joysticks, a bunch of other modules have been converted to the PE format, and some kernel parts of the GDI graphical library are moved to Win32 to better separate the code. 22 bugs are also fixed, including for Darksiders War Mastered Edition, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Thronebreaker The Witcher Tales, TrueDrive, or SimHub. And let's conclude this video with some privacy news. Twitch suffered a massive leak, including source code and user payout information. This includes the entirety of Twitch's source code up to its early beginnings, all payout reports for 2019, the code for the mobile, desktop, and console clients, the proprietary SDKs and internal Amazon Web Services used by Twitch, and even an unreleased Steam competitor called Vapor from Amazon Game Studios. Apparently, encrypted user passwords would also be available, so it's not a bad idea to change your password if you use Twitch and haven't done so already. And finally, a study revealed what most of us already knew. Android smartphones are spying devices that constantly snoop on their users. After testing Samsung, Xiaomi, Realme, and Huawei devices, as well as Lineage with GApps installed, and /EOS, the researchers have found that every variant of Android, with the exception of /E, transmits data to Google and any other third party that has pre-installed apps. The volumes of data sent to Google, just Google, for example, ranges from less than 50 up to 150 kilobytes per hour. That's 1.8 megabytes of data just for Google each day. This data collection can't be disabled, as resetting the advertising identifier on your device doesn't prevent it from being relinked with your previous ID. Google answered, saying, "This is how smartphones work," which is a terrible answer. And that concludes it for this video. It was made possible by Slimbook. If you don't know about them, they're based in Valencia, Spain. They make Linux laptops and desktops, they ship worldwide, and they have products for every budget and every need. I only use their laptop and their desktop nowadays, so if you need a new Linux device, check out the link in the description below. So thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't hesitate to like and subscribe, and if you didn't, you can also dislike and tell me why in the comments. You can also help supporting the channel by joining my Patreon subscribers or my YouTube members, and if you don't like YouTube, you can also watch all my stuff on Odyssey. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!